This is Cliff Evans. I'll be talking with Willie Tasby going in 5. Willie Tasby, in 1959, you came up to the major leagues with Baltimore. The next year, you almost played in the World Series. Now, last year, you played for Washington, and your team finished last. Now, how do you cope with a change like this, going from a team that would almost be in the World Series to a team that finishes down the bottom?
Well, Cliff, when you ask me how do you cope with a situation like that, all I can say is that you have to accept the bitter with the sweet in this game. Of course, you realize that any ball player, no matter who he may be, wants to always play with the winner if possible. However, as I previously stated, some guys aren't that fortunate. So whenever I'm traded, like any other guy that tries to carry himself in a professional way, you just try to do the best you can.
In other words, no matter what the day of the week is, no matter which uniform you're wearing, it's your responsibility to yourself as well as to others to put out as best you can. Willie Tasby, what does it mean to you as a person to be wearing the uniform of a Major League Baseball club?
Well, to me, Cliff, it means that that I'm no different from any other American boy that love our great national pastime. I've always longed for the day that I would play Major League ball, if at all possible. And when I was coming up, I had every opportunity to want to do this thing. I was raised in Oakland, California. I had a chance to play high school ball, American Legion ball, and on up through the ropes. And of course, Robinson had gotten this great break with Mr. Branch Rickey in the Brooklyn organization.
You mean Jackie Robinson?
Jackie Robinson, that's right. And that made me that much more enthusiastic about playing this game. So I'm no different from any other fella. It's one of those things that I've always longed to do, and I'm very happy to have had the opportunity.
Willie, I may be wrong, but Oakland, is that the same city that in very recent years also gave us Frank Robinson?
That's
and
very
Veda
true.
Pinson?
That's right.
And Jesse Gonder?
Jesse Gonder.
I was over at the Cincinnati Ball Club the other day, and there's a whole reunion from high school over there. There's a pitcher, too, whose name escapes me for the moment, but I think there are at least 4 or 5 from the same community. So you're Oakland, too. Well, that's quite a baseball-producing city. I think years ago, Frank Crissetti came from there, too.
That's right. Billy Martin is from that area.
Mm-hmm. Is it depressing on a player when you go through a whole season and wind up down the cellar?
Oh, yes, it is in many respects. By that I mean, take for instance our club last year. Everyone had doomed us for that position that we ended up with anyway. However, we, as you recall, got off to a very good start. We, around June or July, we thought we had every chance of finishing no lower than 5th place, at least.
Yeah, it looked good for a
And
while.
all of a sudden, the bottom fell out of us, and it made the experts look good, you know. That was very disappointing.
Yeah, well, you have to keep punching. Willie Tasby, in your last year in the minor leagues, you were chosen the Rookie of the Year in the American Association. You hit .322. Last year with Washington, you hit .251, which for you is not very fancy. Now, are you finding Major League pitching tougher than you had expected?
Well, of course, I never have underestimated Major League pitching, Cliff. However, I will say this. At Baltimore, my first year, I started out real good. Around the middle of the season, I tailed off. And the same thing happened to me last year at Washington. I had a terrific start. I was hitting over 300 up to the All-Star break. And after the All-Star break, I couldn't do anything right. I don't know what it is. I can't say that the pitchers had gotten on to me or that I had gotten on to them, because most of the guys I have faced for 2 or 3 years, you know. And I don't know what it is. That's something I'm going to try to work on and find out this spring.
I hope you run into a fellow by the name of Ted Williams and ask him, because Ted, you know, not only probably is the greatest hitter of our time, but is I think the #1 expert in talking about hitting and analyzing. And Ted, you know, is a wonderful guy. Any player who asks him a problem about hitting, Ted will give you the answer. Maybe that'll be the answer. Of course, you have a teammate by the name of Benny Daniels. I remember meeting Benny in 1959 when he came up with Pittsburgh, and then For reasons we won't go into, Benny was sent down to the minor leagues, and he came up to the majors again, and now Benny is here to stay. So you may suddenly find yourself, because you're a major leaguer, there's no question about that. Willie Tasby, here we are talking spring training, Pompano Beach, and you walked off the field a minute ago, and you were talking with your wife. Now, does Mrs. Tasby know anything about baseball?
Oh, yes. She's my number one fan, I would say, outside of my father, who is a baseball fanatic, more or less. I'm living here in Florida now, by the way.
In Plant City.
Plant City, that's right. We just finished our new home. And, excuse me, my wife is a school teacher. And she comes down here on the weekend. And she's on the way back home now. And of course, that's a big asset to me, being able to see her rather on the weekend, because once I leave here, break camp that is, I won't see her anymore until June. And I'm very happy to be here in Florida spring training.
Do you have any children?
Oh yes, we have 4 children.
Well, then how do you handle this built-in occupational hazard of being a major league ball player, that you're away from home so much?
Well, I've been playing ball most of my life, Cliff.
No, what I mean, Willie Tasby, is as a father, you're away from your children so much. How do you make up for it? How do you compensate for it? Can you?
Well, I don't think you really can compensate for a thing like that. However, you can try to make it up to them, but I don't think you can ever really compensate for what has been done, Of course, my kids are used to it now, and during the winter months, I play a little basketball with the boys, play dart games with the girls, and we have a lot of fun.
Well, how about Mrs. Tasby? She not only is a school teacher, but while you're playing ball, she's a mother and the head of the household. Is this putting an extra burden, an unfair burden on a person?
Well, if it is, Cliff, all I can say is, rather, that if it is, she has never shown it, not once. She's always tried to comfort me in this game. She is one of the few women, I guess, that realizes how tough this game is. And as I stated, if she has had any emotions about my being away so much, she has never shown it.
How tough is being a baseball player?
Well, it's tougher than most people would believe.
Take us behind the scenes.
Oh, well, sometimes if you're playing, supposed to leave at 2, you might not leave until 4. You might have to leave a game that goes overtime. And you miss a plane that way. You might have you might call home and have your family waiting for you at a certain time, and you don't get home until the next morning. It's a lot of things that's tough about baseball, and that is one of the toughest. Mostly is living out of those suitcases. That's real tough. But toughest of all is being away from your family. That's the toughest thing about it.
Did your father raise you to be a baseball player?
He didn't raise me to be a baseball player, Cliff, but he encouraged me in every way possible to be one.
Ever since you were a child, were you heading for the majors?
Well, when I was a small child, there was no major leagues in sight, I don't imagine, for me, but I always liked baseball. And as I said, I had the opportunity to play good baseball, a good brand of baseball. I had tremendous coaches in California, and I just became enthused about the game, and I've always wanted to play it. I think I would have played it whether it had been major league or not.
Well, there you have the views of one of baseball's superior persons. The name is Willie Tasby, by profession a baseball player, an outfielder with the Washington Senators. This is Cliff Evans reporting from Pompano Beach, a spring training camp of the Washington Senators Baseball Club.